Hello and welcome to the Shiny Bees podcast, a podcast for those that like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. I'm your host Jo Milmine, and coming up in today's show we have Enabler's Corner, where we talk mostly about what to do when your wardrobe malfunctions. We have a giveaway, some news, and the return of the sock surgery with Claire Devine. Hello everybody and welcome back to the show. I hope you've all been well since the last time I spoke to you. Today is Wednesday the 11th of March, and a little later than previously advertised we have the return of our sock surgery segment. How's it going? Have you all been fine? It's all getting very exciting. Edinburgh Yarn Festival is looming on the horizon. I'll be going for gin on Friday night to celebrate my birthday, which is next week. And I'll be off on the train early doors Friday morning from a rather wet and rainy Elgin, as it is at the moment, and very windy, so you may indeed hear the house creaking a little, down to Edinburgh to get involved in all things yarny. There's lots of good stuff going to be going on at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and we will be taking great efforts to make sure that those of you that can't attend will be able to get a little bit of a feel of the festival through the medium of my podcast at least. I'm intending to do a full rundown of all the cool stuff. I've got a very exciting interview lined up, amongst a lot of other things, including the sock surgery drop-in session with Claire Devine and Kate Reid, and we'll be there on the Saturday in the podcast lounge. For anyone that has any sock knitting issues, who want to come and get a little bit of help or have a bit of time out, just sit down with us and chill. Or they're a little bit stuck on their current work in progress, you can bring that along and we'll see if we can help you out. On the Sunday, I'll have the Enterprise Enabling session for all you budding entrepreneurs or wooltrepreneurs, yarntrepreneurs, if you will. You can come along and ask any questions about setting up your own business and all things really to do with business support and marketing and what have you, really, the whole gamut, and I'll be there just to chat to you all about that. That'll be more of a facilitation type workshop session. I will also be on the P-Hop stall on Sunday, pennies per hour of pleasure, and between 11 and 12, so if you don't get a chance to say hello at any of the other things, come along to P-Hop, spend your hard-earned cash on some lovely patterns for charity, and get a new pattern to work on with all of your new yarn that you're probably going to buy. Now, I had big plans for my wardrobe for Edinburgh Yarn Festival that I talked about quite a few episodes ago now. I had grand plans for all of these garments and different things that were going to be knitted in time. And somewhat unsurprisingly, because it is me after all, they're not finished. A lot of the stuff that I wanted to knit is not finished. So this week in the Enabler's Corner, my plan is to discuss what to do when you have a wardrobe malfunction. How do you recover from not finishing your knitting in time? How do you ensure that you still portray a classy and stylish exterior to all of your knitty peeps when your work in progress is still on the needles at home? So that's what we'll be talking about in Enabler's Corner, because as you'd expect from me, there's a slight amount of enabling to be done to alleviate the problem, shall we say. So get yourself a nice cup of rooibos, because it's a cold wintry day here and rooibos is definitely the way forward when it's that kind of weather, and we'll crack on with the show. So, Enabler's Corner this week. As I've just mentioned, I have had a slight wardrobe malfunction, and when these sort of things happen, I think it's important not to dwell on the fact that I could have had a nice cosy owl's jumper and the weather would have been almost treble figures if I had finished it on time. It would have been far too hot to wear, so I'm actually doing everyone else a favour by not having finished my owl's jumper. And instead I thought I would come up with some ideas to how to resolve your problems. We're all about solving problems on the podcast, not creating them. So our problem is that we've not finished our knitting in time to wear it to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and now we're having a wardrobe malfunction. So I've come up with 5 top ways and then Joe's cheat way of how to overcome knitty wardrobe malfunctions. Number 1. Accessorise, accessorise, accessorise. This is a great opportunity for you to show off your signature pieces that you already own. So instead of having a knitted garment to wear, you plan the rest of your outfit to be very plain, very pared back, and for that to be the canvas for your signature statement shawl or cowl, and you can let your knitwear do the talking. Now, I heartily, at this point, will endorse the idea that you need to wear as much knitwear as possible if you're not going to wear a garment. So if you want to wear wristies and you want to wear a cowl and a hat, maybe some little leg warmers as well, crack on, why not? Get your socks out and make sure you plan your shoes so that you can see your socks. Mary Janes are great for this. You can get see-through wellies and see-through boots these days that will allow you to show off your hand-knitted beauty socks. And feel free to go a little bit mental, really, with the accessories so that you still feel that you've got your knit on without having to go the full 9 yards and have an entire garment. Number 2. You can go Shopbot. Mass-produced is not ideal. But if you choose the piece carefully, then it can be okay. Like I have a jumper that came from Autograph, Marks and Spencer's, and everyone always asks me what pattern it is. It looks like it's hand knitted, but it isn't. So by Shopbot, I mean go and find something that is quite interesting, it's quite unusual, it's a bit more than your standard plain V-neck jumper. Maybe something this is quite a lacy jumper in terms of, it's just eyelet lace, but it's very geometric looking eyelet lace, and it's in a dark grey sort of sea-cell blend, kind of linen-y looking as well, which means you can get away with the fact that you haven't knit it yourself because it looks like you have. So if you pick the pieces carefully, and there are a lot of these around at the moment, then you can make it look like you've done your homework, but you've not. So by that I mean steer clear of the acrylics. So supermarket ones are probably not your friend. Maybe invest a little bit more and go for your Marks and Spencer's sort of level if you're going to go more budget, or obviously the sky's the limit if you want to go and buy something really amazing. But steer clear of the acrylics and try and pick a yarn that's a little bit unusual, because nobody's going to go and buy acrylic and knit an acrylic V-neck to wear to a festival so that everyone will know it's Shopbot. If you want to kind of give the impression it's not, then you need to go for something slightly more unusual. And then, of course, you accessorise it up, the yin-yang, with all of your other hand knits that you've got lying around. Number 3, you could dispense with the knitwear and big up another genre. This is a tactic that I intend to employ over the weekend. And what you can do is you can add some accessories that are handmade by someone else. So you could buy some handmade, hand-sewn clothes from Etsy. Probably not now this minute because it's not going to be here in time. But there are lots of shops in Edinburgh that do vintage, that do handmade stuff. You could go and have a little shop on Friday and see what you can come up with. What you could also do is accessorise with something that is woven, for instance. So I decided to partake in a small accident of retail therapy and purchased 2 hand-dyed, hand-woven silk scarves by Dorothy Stewart, who is down in Dumfries in Scotland. One of these was for my mum, because it is Mother's Day here at the weekend in the UK as well. So if you're going to swan off to Edinburgh, drink gin, have loads of yarny fun, roll back in on Monday afternoon, you have to make sure that there's a suitable offering for your mother if they're the ones at home minding the children and dogs on your behalf. So I got 2 beautiful hand-woven, hand-dyed silk, 100% silk scarves. There's nothing that quite makes a statement like than that sort of accessory, really. So again, nice, plain, not too much going on clothing, and then your statement piece in terms of an accessory that's from another genre and is still handmade, so you still get that effect. Number 4, you could have a look around for someone who's doing a sample sale. Quite often the knitwear companies and yarn shops will sell samples. Once they've finished with them, they'll sell them on. So this is a brilliant way for you to get your hand knitted wardrobe without having to hand knit it yourself, and probably at a reasonable price too. Clearly, employing a sample knitter would be the preferable option. You could have it custom fitted, they'll do the hard work for you. But even the fastest sample knitter's not going to be able to knock out a cabled tunic for you by the weekend, so consider a sample sale. Number 5, knit something mega chunky. This clearly has an element of seasonality to it. You are not going to knit something mega chunky in the middle of summer for Unwind Brighton, for instance. However, it is March, we are in Scotland, this could feasibly work. A perfect example would be Owligan for that garment effect without the garment work. Knit on 9mm needles, 2 strands of chunky held together. You could probably have it done by the weekend if you dedicate yourself. You could do something like arm knitting, which I've never tried, but a lot of people are quite into. Knit yourself a big kind of infinity scarf type affair with arm knitting. That's going to be quite quick. A chunky hat perhaps, and that, you're looking at maybe 4 to 5 hours work for that. So that would be another way to expand your wardrobe and overcome the malfunction when you're at this point before a yarn festival. Now, I always like to have a caveat to all of this. A lot of these ways to overcome the malfunction will involve some kind of expenditure on your part, and any kind of expenditure on your part that is unplanned, and I'm assuming it's going to be unplanned because we plan to have our wardrobe ready, is going to incur some expense, and that expense will then be deducted from your available yarn and gin budget. Not always a good thing when you're going to visit the greatest yarn department store in the world in Edinburgh at the weekend. So I recommend finding your kindest, most lovely, fastest knitting friend and asking to borrow one of their garments. I suggest Louise Tilbrook's a good option. She's got loads of knitted stuff because she's dead fast. Find someone who's about your size, who likes to knit, and ask them, please may you borrow theirs. They could borrow one of your items and it'd be like you've knitted something new and it's taken you no time at all. Friends love to share clothes, and none of us really do it anymore because we're all too old and boring. But when you're a teenager, you swap clothes all the time. It's a great solution. So there you have an Enabler's Corner. My 5 + 1 ways to overcome wardrobe malfunctions for yarn festivals. If you have any top tips for what people should do if they find themselves in this predicament, then please get in touch and let us know. It would be great to hear from you. So I did say we had a giveaway for you, and this episode, the giveaway, is sponsored by the most lovely and wonderful Edinburgh's vintage indie yarn queen, keeper of beautiful hair and effortless 50s glamour, Jessica James of Ginger's Hand Dyed, which is the hand dyed range at Ginger Twist Studio in Edinburgh. And she has very kindly sent to me a skein of her Flumps chunky yarn in the colourway Little Cat Feet. My claim to fame is that I named this yarn Flumps, mostly due to the obsession I have with marshmallows, and so she decided to call it Flumps, so I'm quite pleased with that. This is a 100% superwash merino yarn, and it comes in at 100 metres for 100 grams, and the recommended retail price for it is £16.50. It is a lovely blue toned grey colourway, and it'd be brilliant for a nice smooshy squishy hat. to keep your little noggin, keep the heat warm in the winter months. It would also be great for making items such as a baby blanket or other items that need a high squish factor. Then this could be the perfect yarn for you. So in order to enter the giveaway for this skein of yarn, I would like you to pop over to the Ravelry group, and if you could put in the giveaway thread, please, which colour of Flumps Chunky you would knit a hat in if you had the choice from Jess's range, then you'll be in with a chance of winning the skein of yarn. It is in the colourway Little Cat Feet, so unfortunately you won't get the colour you ask for. You'll get Little Cat Feet, but this is a beautiful colourway, very classic, understated, really allows the yarn to come through. It'd be brilliant for cabled patterns, etc., because it will show up all of the detail and the definition in the stitches. So as I said, pop over to the group on Ravelry and let me know which colour of Flumps Chunky is your favourite to enter the competition. And a huge thanks to Jess at Ginger Twist Studio for sending us that yarn to give away. It's certainly something that I'll be looking to enhance and flump up the stash with. So if you want to go and have a look at the rest of her offerings, then you can find her over at www.gingertwiststudios.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes for you. So the return of the sock surgery is nigh, and we've also started our new sock for this month. So the topic that we're going to be discussing with Claire and Kate today is about finishing and caring for your socks once they're finished, and that sort of ties up the end of the kind of January to February month segment. There is a plan to have some audio from Edinburgh Yarn Festival and from the sock surgery, potentially, depending on the quality of the audio for the next episode. But essentially, we've now moved on from our top-down heel flap sock, and we're doing a toe-up sock. Kate is knitting her sock in West Yorkshire Studios signature 4-ply, and that has been very, very kindly donated to us by Fluff. Fluff is Dundee's premier yarnery and one of my favourite places on earth. It is run by the absolutely lovely Leona, and she is definitely someone you need to make an excuse to go to Dundee and visit her shop. She now is in the process of moving all of her yarns to be available online as well, and you can buy West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply from her. It's on the website now, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. We'll also be giving away a set of this yarn to make a pair of socks with as well, again courtesy of Fluff in Dundee, and their website is www.fluff.co.uk, and that is spelled FLUPH. So Kate is knitting the Planum socks, which is one of Claire's designs that she's scaled up to be an adult size now, and it is a toe-up sock. It's nice, plain, vanilla, nothing too crazy. Certainly not as crazy as the Tarsi socks, which she has done and finished. If you haven't seen them on Instagram, I'll put some pictures in the show notes for you. They look amazing. They are really, really good, and we're actually going to be doing some kits with the Tarsi pattern and project bags and stuff, because we've had so many people asking us about the yarn. So they'll be available in the next couple of weeks. I'll let you know when they are. But in the meantime, we've gone to something slightly more commercial. West Yorkshire Spinners is really affordable yarn. It's spun in Yorkshire. They come in beautiful colours. Kate is using a blue colourway basically, so nice and kind of plain, very rich blue. It's already making beautiful socks. She might even be on a second sock already. I think she's a bit good. So without further ado, I think we had better move on to the actual meat of the section and see what Claire and Kate have to say about finishing and caring for your socks. Okay, so I am joined by an in no way out of control Kate and Clare for another wonderful episode of The Sock Surgery, and today we're going to be talking about finishing your socks. Welcome to the show, Clare and Kate.
Hello.
Brilliant. Kate, do you want to kick us off with your question about finishing?
Yes, Claire, I'm really excited. I finished my sock and grafted it off. But can I put them on straight away and just start wearing them? Or is there something else I need to do or anything before I actually start wearing, or anything that can help me get the most out of them?
Well, I suppose if you're in Scotland, I would advocate putting your socks on immediately because your feet might fall off from frostbite. It's so cold. Summer is coming at some point, I'm sure. Well, I suppose you could put them on straight away and you could wear them. But I would always advocate for a nice gentle soak and a little bit of a block. And I know people might think I'm a little bit crazy proposing that people block their socks, but I think they get a nice finish. And blocking allows all those stitches just to have a little bit of a relax, and it will improve the look of the socks. So I often think if people are a little unhappy with the decreases in their gusset or the way the stitch pattern is lying, you'll be surprised at how much blocking can actually fix those little bits that you're uncertain about. So you certainly don't need to block your socks in the same way as you would block a shawl, with the same sort of amount of care and attention to detail. I always soak my socks in Eucalyptus, mainly because it smells scrummy and lovely. And then I squeeze out the water gently in a towel, and then I lie them flat to block. Sometimes I put them on sock blockers, depending, and those are sort of a wonderful tool. Though be careful not to sock blocker the cuff too much, which I have been known to do once and realise that I'd really stretched the cuff, because you want the ribbing on the cuff to stay nice and stretchy. And then they're ready to wear. Now, I'm going to say something that I think a lot of people might disagree with, and I don't always practice this myself because obviously I don't have all the hours in the day to sit around hand washing my socks. But I do think that even if you are using superwash socks or socks with nylon, sock yarn with nylon that's superwash, that I would advocate hand washing your socks as much as you can, because I think even the best superwash wool in the world doesn't really like being rough and tumbled in the washing machine. It certainly doesn't like being rough and tumbled in the washing machine with your jeans. Is that police? Are the police coming for you, Jo?
That's at mine, actually.
Are those police coming for you?
They're on the way to Gosport.
There is only one policeman. It's my friend's brother.
So before we were so rudely interrupted by the police, I was saying maybe they're coming to get me with a straitjacket for proposing that people hand wash their socks. But I definitely think that your yarn will last longer, your socks will last longer, and there is less chance of them felting if you hand wash them. And I know people will probably recoil in horror, but I think sometimes it's worth treating them a little kinder than you might do your multi-pack of socks that you bought at the supermarket.
So although you can, it's more about whether or not you should.
Yes, I think you can, and I certainly wash my socks in the washing machine sometimes. My lovely husband washes my non-superwash socks in the washing machine sometimes too, but we won't talk about that.
He's trying to be helpful, I'm sure.
He was very helpful. And but I think that they last longer, and I can certainly tell that the socks that I have maybe taken more time and care, probably the complicated cookie A ones that I don't want to throw in the washing machine because they took me about half of my life to knit, or it felt like it at the time, are in much better nick than the ones that I just chuck into the washing machine. So there you have it.
Claire, do you dry your socks on blockers every time you wash them?
No, I don't. No. I mainly use sock blockers for socking. It's a bit strange. I mainly use sock blockers for drying my socks when I want them to look really good. So I suppose I have socks that I sort of wear to stop my feet from falling off from the freezing cold, because it is cold in Edinburgh. And yes, I do moan a lot about the winter because I'm from the very far south. But if I want them to look pretty, or if they've got a pretty pattern or some cabling or their samples, then I put them on sock blockers. But I do just wash and dry my socks that I wear on a daily basis normally, because they kind of go on my feet and then they go into big clumpy walking shoes that I parade around Edinburgh in. So yeah, it would be a bit of a waste of time to block them all beautifully.
I suppose I was going to say, I suppose the other aspect is, like, I have a pair, my first ever pair of socks in, I call it Regia, whatever. Regia sounds posher, so I'm sticking with that. And that is the German 10-year guarantee amazing sock yarn. And I always wash those in the washer, and they still look as good as the day that I made them. But I wouldn't dream of washing my hand-dyed socks in the washer, because obviously with it being hand-dyed as well, the colours will go far, far faster if you machine wash them, even if it is capable of being machine washed.
Yeah.
So I suppose you're thinking about what kind of detergent you're using. If you're hand washing, it's probably something for delicates.
Absolutely. So yeah, I suppose that's a good analogy. And I'm not proposing that everyone hand washes everything all the time, but I do think that just because it says superwash does not mean you can put it in with your bio washing powder and your jeans and expect them to come out looking like they did when they went in.
Save them up and do them all at once, I suppose.
Exactly.
It's not such a chore.
Put them in the bath.
Exactly.
Just do a bath full in one go.
Bath full of socks. How many pairs of knitted socks do you have?
3, but I've heard people say they do that.
Joe's wishful thinking, Kate. At the end of this year of socks, Joe will have a bath full of socks.
If that had been Claire's suggestion, then maybe. Sounds like she has a pair for every day of the week.
Well, I didn't count all the ones that are kind of half made though. Then it'd be worth putting them in the bath. No, if you've got a lot of hand knits to wash in one go, then it's quite good. You can start with the light colours and go all the way through to the dark colours, or the really saturated ones, and it doesn't cost you as much in soak wash. Although I would recommend doing the socks after garments, just in case it gets a bit stinky.
Yeah, maybe. And I know that the Knitwear girls always advocate it's a great activity with small children. I, in all honesty, don't have the patience to wash socks with my small child because I'm mean and I don't want her to be wet and then cold. Sorry, the theme is cold here at the moment. But I think if you're patient and a nice patient mummy, then maybe that's a great activity. Or if you live somewhere warmer and they can splosh about in the water outside, apparently they do sock washing and yarn washing as a family activity. So there you go. And I suppose it teaches young children about cleaning their clothes. There you go. I'm not really very good at parenting advice. I'll stick to socks.
We don't really do parenting advice on this podcast. I tend to leave that within the realms of other people who are clearly more learned than I am.
I just thought I'm giving the worst. I'm just going to stick to socks. Basically, my advice on children is don't ask me. My advice on socks is look after them because they're wonderful.
That's brilliant. If it makes you feel better, I do not do sock washing with my child. I don't think agitating my hand knits is the way forward. Or indeed agitating myself. So well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. I hope you've all enjoyed the episode, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Happy crafting, have a great week. Bye. You've been listening to the Shiny Bees podcast, a podcast for those who like their yarn, knitting and comedy in equally large measures. If you'd like to get in contact, you can do so via the blog, where you can find full show notes every week at www.shinybees.com. I'm Shiny Bees on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and Pinterest. Or you can contact me at shinybeesinfo@gmail.com.